Hi everyone, this is Linda, and I'm going to show you how to make this little in the hoop gnome, and it's being used in Premiere Plus 2 Ultra. So you need to make sure you have Ultra in order to complete this. So what we're going to do is, in order to get going, what the things you need to know, we're going to use Quick Create shapes in Create, and then Precise Create to draw all our stitch lines and basting and sewing. Insert stops with notes, which is really kind of a nice thing to do. We're going to try and make sure we have very few jump stitches so that you don't have a lot of trimming to do. Software needed is Premiere Plus 2 Ultra. Supplies, a 180 by 130 hoop, no-show mesh stabilizer, sewing thread for top and bottom, fabrics, 3 by 5 inch piece of fur for the beard, a 2.5 by 5 inch for trim, 4 by 5 for hat, 4 by 5 inches for the back. Could be the same as your hat fabric if you want it that way. Pom-pom for the top of the hat. Nose, you can use a wooden bead, or I use a small piece of old stocking with some fiber fill. Plastic pellets. This is going to give it weight so it can stand up well. And so a glue gun, or you can hand sew the pom-pom nose and the back onto yourself. So let's get started. Okay, so I've opened up my Premiere Plus 2 software, and I've gone to Create, which is the little icon that's down towards the bottom, and it's the one with the little flower looking thing. It's right here. And I now have this up. I'm going to start a new design with no picture, because I don't need a picture to do this. I'm just going to go forward. I can leave it in the draw window. I'm going to do next 180 by 130 hoop, which is the 5 by 7, change your hoop. Now you can do this any size you wanted. The basics are going to still be the same. So if you wanted to make it taller or shorter and fatter, I don't think you're going to get much shorter and fatter than what we're going to do, but it's up to you. We're going to hit finish. So I now have this. It does come to the draw window, but I don't need that. I'm going to go to the Quick Create window without going there at all. I don't need a pattern fill. You can change this to, from satin line, we're going to go to a running stitch. And I just need a basting stitch for this first part of it. So I'm going to go to fill area and line, and I'm going to change this to a 6.0. I do OK. And I'm actually going to use a shape. And the shape number I want to use is number 39. So I'm going to come down here and look at all these shapes we could use. 39. And again, I'm in the Quick Create tab. I have a running stitch. I changed fill area and line to 6.0, and I have number 39 shape. And I'm just going to select that. So what I want to do is I actually want to make this almost as big as I possibly can in here. And I'm going to drag that all the way up there, and I'm going to drag this all the way down here. Just almost as big as that hoop is. Not quite. I want a little bit of space on the outside edges. Not much, because we're going to make some adjustments here. And I'm going to do a right mouse button. When you use Quick Create, you will always have everything start at the top, and it's just the way it is. Even if it looks like I'm moving these, I'm really not. The stitching is still going to start here at the top. It's just the way it is. It looks at the uppermost point. That's what's nice about using things in Precise Create, because you can actually tell it where you need things to start. So I'm going to go to Precise Create, and I need to get my beginning stitches to actually start down here where I need to put in a stitch line for the beard. So I'm going to do running stitch. I still have 6.0 selected. So if you're not sure, you can always go in there and look. And I'm going to do create area or line, and I'm going to start stitching right from the very center of this point. This is to kind of keep me from having jump stitches. So I'm just going to select there, and I'm just going to follow this along here. Doesn't have to, this is all going to get hidden and you're not going to see it anyway. So I'm going to go 2 grid lines down. And then what I want to do is I actually want to make this a square. So to do that, so I have a very fine squarish point, I'm going to hold my control key and click that again. So now what will happen is it'll be a very sharp edge. And I'm going to come over to the right, and I'm going to do the same thing. So what this does is this is going to keep me from having jump stitches, and it's just going to follow down here and create a line for me to lay my beard at. Right mouse button. So now what I can do is actually insert a note here and a stop. This way I don't have to insert color changes and those kinds of things. I'm just going to put a stop. I'm going to come down here to the stop, right mouse button. I'm going to click on properties, and I'm going to type in here placement line for beard or fur or whatever you want to do. Lay side up with top raw edge on line. And the reason I'm doing this is, let me show you. This is so cool. I can actually go and I can print this, and it's going to print all this wonderful information for me. So I'm going to go to File, and I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to go to Print. And I've got all these selected so that you can actually see what all these things are. I'm going to use the down arrow. And if I get in really close, stop 1. Placement line for beard, lay fabrics right side up with top edge on line. So if I went and printed this, it's actually going to do that. So all of my different stops I'm going to have is going to be along here, and it's actually going to keep that information for me. It's a really nice thing to have so that you know exactly what's going on. So I have stopped here. Okay, so now what I've done is, this is my placement line for my beard. I'm going to lay my beard down. Now I need to hold it in place. So I'm actually going to come down here. So I'm going to make sure that running stitch is still selected, create area or line, make sure that this is, I'm going to change this now because I now need to actually start stitching things together. So I'm going to change that to a 2.5. Do okay. I'm going to make sure create area or line is still selected. I've still got the stop there. So I'm going to start here. I'm going to come down here just a little bit, about 1 grid line down. And again, hold your control key to make that a nice sharp, crisp edge. And I'm going to sew my beard in place. And I'm going to come over here to the left, hold it down. And then I want to hold it and actually go around down here at the bottom. I'm going to get really close to here, and I'm just going to barely touch it. Right mouse button, and right mouse button again, and now I can actually move that into place. So now what that's done is it's going to hold my beard exactly where I want it. Now I can come in here and move these nodes around a little bit. It's up to you, just what you want to do. Now the next thing I need to do is I need to lay, I've got my beard in place, so now I need to actually lay my other piece of fabric. But I need a stop in here, so I'm going to go stop and right mouse and properties. And now the next thing I'm going to do is I need to lay trim fabric wrong side up with raw edge near stitch line. And this is just really more of a reminder. And the stitch line you really want to lay it to is this one. So we're going to do okay. Now, if you want to, you could also trim your beard in here at the same time. So now we're going to, again, make sure that that still says 2.5, which is good. We're going to now come across, and we're going to actually get that piece of fabric, and this is your trim, laying in place. But what I need to do is I actually need to create this little hump to keep this so that I have a place to lay my nose. So I'm going to select here. I'm going to come down, and I'm going to come across to about the 3rd grid line from to the right of the center. And then I'm going to come up here. And this will make much more sense when you're actually sewing this out. Over here, I'm going to hold my control key and come over here on the side. And you notice I didn't hold my control key here, so I'm going to go back and click on that. And then I'm going to hit my right mouse button. So what this is going to do is this is going to be my stitch down line to hold down my trim. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold my fabric back up. So I need to put a note in here. I'm going to go into insert a stop. I'm going to do a right mouse. I'm going to do properties. And so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to fold trim fabric up. So right side is up. So now what we need to do is we need to actually when we're done with this, is come up here, and we're going to tack down that trim fabric along the side, and then we're going to hold it in place, and we're going to get a placement line for our hat fabric. So I'm going to this is just going to be our placement line. So let's do okay. Fold the fabric up. And now what I'm going to do is, again, make sure this is selected here, click here, and I can go straight up. So I'm just going to go up so that I'm about 2 grid lines up above the center. I'm sorry, I'm right at the center. And I'm going to hold this, and I'm going to come all the way over to the right and right mouse button. So now I've got this actually in place. And so now I've got that so that I know exactly where I need to lay my hat fabric. So now I've got my hat fabric, and I'm going to lay it down. And I want to lay it down so that the raw edge is down here, and not necessarily along that line, but down here. So now what I want to do is take this, and I'm going to lay my hat fabric down. This again is sewing my trim fabric down, and I can lay my hat fabric down, and I'm going to get a stitch that stitches it in line. Now you're going to put your raw edge in here, but I need to do a stop, right mouse, properties, lay hat fabric right side down with raw edge of fabric covering the top stitch line. So now what we're going to do is we're going to come back across here and we're going to stitch it in place. So I'm going to get that selected, I'm going here, and I'm going to go here. And again, I use my control key so I don't get that little rounded edge, and I've got that now laid down in place. So now what I need to do is I'm going to fold my hat fabric up, and I need to hold it in place. Again, I'm going to hit stop, right mouse, properties, fold hat fabric up, and now we're going to tack it in place. So I'm going to have this, and I'm going to that selected still, and I'm going to go from here, and you can bring this in just a little bit. And again, make sure you hold your control key and up and around. And this is just going to hold it in place. It's not going to be that big a deal at this point. So I've got it, my hat fabric actually getting held in place. Right mouse button. Don't forget to right mouse button. And now look, I kind of have some goofy things here. So that's okay. We're going to come up here. Ooh, right mouse. I need to right mouse again, and I'm going to hit my control key and select that. And there's a nice little point. Now, the last thing we need to do is lay your final piece of fabric across the top. So we've got 2 pieces of fabric we're going to lay down. But again, I need to make sure I stop my stitches, stop, right mouse, properties, lay 2 pieces of backing fabric right side down. And I'll show exactly how to do that in your video. But now we need to sew this all in place. But this time I need to make sure that I'm doing it so it's going to be a little bit more secure. So I'm going to do a double stitch. And again, create area or line. And I'm just going to come in here. Now I'm going to actually come in here, and I'm holding my control key, and I'm going to come in just a little bit. Now I'm going to come around. And because I'm trying to create a little bit of a seam, and so I don't end up with all those tack down stitches showing, and I'm just going to come all the way around. And because we're using those 2 pieces of fabric right side down, we're going to have a place to fold this back out. I'm going to get really close, right mouse again, and slide that up into place. And you can mess with these just a little bit. You just are allowing yourself to have a little bit of space. So in case your fabric is shifted a little bit, it will now give you the capability to, not worry about these stitches showing when you actually stitch it out. So you should be all done. Don't forget, you're going to save your design, and I'm going to just save this, and I'm going to save this as Gnome for video. So I know that this one is what this is. And I'm going to go here, and I'm going to export it. I'm going to call it Gnome for video, export. Now remember, let's go back here, and we're going to look at the print information. Now I'll zoom in here. All that's there. It's really, really cool because I have that all in here. Now when I actually stitch this out, I'm not using that particular color. I'm actually going to use sewing machine thread and not embroidery thread. You can use embroidery thread, but I'm going to use sewing thread. So the next video is going to be about doing the stitch out. So you'll have to watch for that. That's a separate video. Okay, so you just completed watching the video on how to create the In the Hoop Gnome in your software. So make sure that you subscribe to my channel, like, share the video, comments are always welcome, and then make sure that you post a picture to either the Linda Stitchens group, or you can actually put it to the Premiere Plus 2, Premiere Plus 60 software users group on Facebook, and let them know where you learned how to make it. There is a separate video on how to actually stitch this out, so make sure you watch that too. Make sure that by posting pictures, it encourages me to continue to do more videos. Thanks.